You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the EOC of Northport, Florida. I've got a very, very special guest and an emergency update on our water levels in our canals and especially the Lady Slipper. Jason, go ahead.
Thank you, John, for having us on. So we are continuing to monitor the conditions, monitor the storm as it approaches, and monitoring the water levels throughout our system here in the city of Northport. And a little while ago, we sent out some alerts to a specific area in the Lady Slipper area, as you mentioned. So we're talking about Sumter, west of Sumter, up to I-75, and then up into the Estates area. So we're talking north of 75, up right along that corridor of Sumter, up to Tropicare and Estates Drive, a very specific area where we are concerned about the rising levels in the Myakkahatchee Creek, or the Big Slough, as it's referred to. So those homes along that area where we typically see flooding on the roads, we are beginning to see that already. But there is some concern from our first responders that they may not be able to get to those areas in the event that those water levels continue to rise. So for those folks that haven't evacuated already, we sent out an emergency alert a little while ago to let them know that they are in a dangerous condition here and that it is time to evacuate if you haven't already done so, to get to a shelter. We want to give people enough time to do that so that they can get out if they choose, so that they're not in harm's way, because again, we expect those water levels to continue to rise. You can see the amount of rain that we're already getting. We know how much rain we've already gotten. We've lowered those levels throughout the creek and all our canals as much as we can ahead of this event, but it's been a very rainy year. We have very high water levels. We do expect to see the impacts, and those levels continue to rise. We want people to get to safety if they can. So we encourage them to get to a shelter if they haven't already, if they live in those specific areas. We've tried to make that clear as much as we can. I know there may be a little confusion for folks that don't know or didn't really see the alert, but are hearing about it secondhand. So if you did not receive that alert directly to you and you don't live directly in those areas that I just talked about, this doesn't apply to you. But if you're in those zones that we've always been talking about, the low-lying areas that flood, and the zone A and B and C where evacuations have been called, there is still time to get to an evacuation center before the winds pick up and we cannot get to you in the event of an emergency.
How important is it for people to listen to what you're saying now and tell their neighbors and kind of branch out a little bit?
Yeah, it's critically important. This is really important information that we're trying to get out there because it involves people's safety. And safety is #1 priority for the city of Northport. That's why we do what we do, to try to alert people, make sure they are informed of the conditions. We want them to stay alert, stay aware of what's going on as the conditions rise. Just because they don't see flooding in their home already, it doesn't mean that can't change, and that's what we're monitoring. We're looking at the weather conditions. We're trying to make sure that everyone is safe.
And the people in those low-lying areas in the canals throughout the city, they should really tune in to what we're doing here at WKDW Radio on Facebook to really get some more insight as we bring people in from the EOC, correct?
Absolutely. We know that those areas typically flood, and we expect to see that again here with this event. Those who went through Hurricane Ian and decided to stay and remember what it was like to be flooded in, to not be able to get out of their homes, for us to have to perform water rescues after the fact. Again, if there's an emergency during that time when we can't get to you, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to help you, because our first responders, it's not going to be safe for them when the winds pick up. So we don't want people to find themselves in that situation. We want to give them as much time as we can to let them know if you're in those specific areas, you need to get out, because you don't want to find yourself in that position.
And we have another update coming from Chief Titus at 5 o'clock. Tell the citizens right now how the EOC operates and when they should expect another update after that.
Sure. So the EOC is constantly monitoring all the data and information that's out there. So that's from our crews who are out there monitoring road conditions in public works, and in our first responders that are looking at the levels, monitoring those water on the roadways, seeing what's happening, as well as the data that we're getting in from the National Weather Service, from the rain gauges that we monitor, from the levels in the creek and the big slough and in the canals that our public works team is monitoring. We lowered the water levels as much as we can, but however, Mother Nature is going to take its course. There is going to be rain. There is going to be water coming through Northport even after the hurricane passes through. That's what we're constantly monitoring. The Emergency Operations Center is here to gather all that information and use it to make the best decisions to help inform people and try to keep them safe.
Thanks, Jason, for the update. Appreciate it. Citizens of Northport, pay attention, 5 o'clock p.m. We're going to be back live with Chief Titus and get another update from the EOC. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.